3.4 billion Swiss francs. Yeah, you heard that right. That is the sheer, staggering volume of sales this global manufacturing powerhouse generated in just the first 6 months of 2026. Think about that for a second. We're living in an era where pharma pipelines are getting wildly complex, right? And the cost to bring new drugs to market absolutely skyrocketing. But behind the scenes, one company is quietly cashing in by being the ultimate architect for the world's biggest medications.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking the mechanics behind Lonza's incredibly successful half-year financial report for 2026. If you've ever wondered how these modern miracle drugs actually get manufactured at a global scale, well, you're looking at the engine room. We're going to look past the dense financial jargon to understand exactly how Lonza engineered this massive growth, why they just made a huge shift in their corporate identity, and what their aggressive reinvestment strategy really means for the future of medicine.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap. We'll start with their record half-year performance, then dive into their pure-play CDMO transformation, look at how they're investing for future growth, and finally wrap up with their upgraded outlook and beyond.
All right, let's jump right into Part 1, Record Half-Year Performance. Let's look at the first half of 2026 by the numbers.
The jump in their core EBITDA margin is incredible. It expanded by a massive 4.4 percentage points, hitting 34.8% in the first half of 2026. Now, if you follow industrial-scale manufacturing, you know margins usually inch up by, tiny fractions of a percent? So a 4.4-point jump, that isn't just some clever accounting trick. That is a story of raw operational efficiency. It literally tells us that Lonza's hyper-focus on quality, cost discipline, and productivity is translating directly into high-octane profitability.
Their latest numbers perfectly illustrate their broader momentum. Top-line sales hit that 3.4 billion franc mark, which is a 16% growth in constant exchange rates. That flowed right down into 1.2 billion in core EBITDA. But, the real standout metric here? Free cash flow. It improved by 300 million francs over the exact same period last year. And this wasn't just some isolated success. Lonza saw double-digit growth across literally all of their business platforms. They are, for sure, firing on all cylinders right now.
So what's driving this? Let's move to Section 2, the pure-play CDMO transformation, and look at their strategic pivot.
The absolute linchpin of this success is their shift to becoming a pure-play CDMO. That stands for Contract Development and Manufacturing Organization. Historically, companies like Lonza kind of had their hands in a little bit of everything: proprietary products, software, secondary health ingredients. But a pure-play CDMO, it sheds all those distractions. They exist for one reason and one reason only: to be the outsourced manufacturing muscle for biopharma companies. By clearing the deck of all those non-core offerings, Lonza has focused 100% of its resources on this highly lucrative service model.
And honestly, they were pretty ruthless about achieving this pure play status. They stripped away non-core assets left and right. The really heavy hitter here is the 60% divestment of their Capsules and Health Ingredients division, or CHI, to Lone Star funds. That move alone, it's expected to bring in exit proceeds of over 1.7 billion francs before year-end 2026. Add to that the divestment of their Montegio micronization site, the Cocoon personalized medicine unit, and their MODA software platform. It's essentially a textbook example of addition by subtraction. They're shedding good businesses to be absolutely exceptional at a great business.
Now that they've pivoted and generated all this cash, let's hit Section 3, Investing for Future Growth, and see exactly how they're deploying that capital.
Lonza relies on this highly disciplined CDMO capital allocation framework. It's got a really rigorous priority list. First, they fund the essentials, maintenance, infrastructure, and systems. Second, they reward their investors with progressive dividends. Then, the discretionary cash is poured into growth capital expenditures and strategic M&A. Finally, any surplus capital goes right back to the shareholders. A great example is the 500 million franc share buyback they plan to initiate once that massive CHI divestment officially closes. It's just a beautifully structured approach to managing wealth.
But let's actually zoom in on that third step for a second, the growth in M&A, because this number is just breathtaking. Greater than 7 billion Swiss francs. That is the staggering scale of investment Lonza intends to make between now and 2030. They aren't just, sitting back and enjoying their market lead. They are aggressively building a moat, keeping their powder dry, and staying ready for additional bolt-on acquisitions to expand their technological capabilities even further.
Let's try to ground this abstract financial data in some physical reality. Take the massive expansion at their Visp manufacturing site in Switzerland, specifically scaling up their mammalian capabilities. And why does this matter? Well, globally, the demand for mammalian cell culture capacity continues to severely outpace the supply.
Lonza saw this bottleneck coming and poured capital into large-scale assets, like a brand-new 332,000-liter capacity facility. They are literally building the physical infrastructure that tomorrow's medicine relies on.
And the thing is, it's not just basic manufacturing. They are scaling for next-generation, highly complex drug products. These expansions across their global networks support some incredibly advanced medical tech. For example, they're investing in multi-purpose payload linker suites for antibody drug conjugates, or ADCs. Those are cutting-edge targeted cancer therapies. On top of that, they just secured the approval of their 6th commercial cell and gene therapy. We're not talking about simple aspirin tablets here. This is the absolute frontier of modern biology, and Lonza is the one building the factories for it.
Now, you might be wondering who exactly is paying for all this. Well, while 55% of their sales do come from large pharma giants, a highly significant 45% comes from small and medium-sized pharmaceutical companies. This is absolutely vital to understand. Small innovators often discover these groundbreaking drugs, but they completely lack the billions of dollars required to build commercial-grade manufacturing infrastructure. Lonza effectively acts as the manufacturing arm for almost half the industry's smaller players. They're bringing life-saving innovations to patients that, honestly, might otherwise never make it out of the lab.
All right, let's bring it all together in our final section, Upgraded Outlook and Beyond. Let's look down the road to 2030.
The most immediate consequence of all this is a highly confident upgrade in their corporate guidance. Their previous outlook for the 2026 core EBITDA margin was simply greater than 32%. But thanks to the success of that pure-play pivot and their operational momentum, they've officially upgraded that target to a really tight window of 33 to 34%. In the corporate finance world, raising guidance mid-year, that's the ultimate flex. It proves the strategy isn't just working on paper, it's outperforming in the real world.
So let's summarize the key takeaways driving this forward momentum. First, they're maintaining an expectation of 11 to 12% sales growth. They're committed to reinvesting heavily, keeping capital expenditures in the mid to high teens as a percentage of sales. But actually, the most impressive stat here is that Lonza CDMO organic growth is trending 2 to 3% ahead of the broader pharmaceutical manufacturing market, which is already growing at a really healthy 8 to 10% itself. They aren't just riding the industry wave, they are demonstrably outpacing it. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a thought. As biologic therapies, gene editing, and targeted cancer treatments become increasingly complex, the sheer difficulty of physically making these drugs is skyrocketing. So are we going to see a future where even the largest pharmaceutical companies rely entirely on specialized, pure-play manufacturing giants like Lonza to bring their incredible innovations to life? It's a fascinating shift in the global health ecosystem, and it's one that is clearly paying off by the billions. Thanks so much for joining me to unpack these insights, and definitely keep your eyes